Hello and welcome to another album analysis. In today's video we're delving into the latest release from the American rock band Shallow Side titled Reflections. This is the band's second studio album, was released on Friday 19th of July, just a few days ago, but Thermal Entertainment were very generous and gave me access to the album over a week early, so I've had a chance to give it a few listens, really pull it apart and really delve deep into what's going on inside the album, and they certainly haven't disappointed with this release. They did effectively release their first album in 2018 titled Origins, however that was a compilation of their previous EPs. They did feature a couple of new tracks, but it was really 2019 with Saints and Sinners where they really kind of started to come into fruition and really come into their own. Many of the tracks on there were very much appreciated on the American rock radio stations and charts, and the same has happened with some of the singles they've released from this most recent album being a mainstay on rock radio stations across America, and are gradually trying to creep their way over to Europe and the rest of the world. But certainly just great to see the band continuing to strive upwards as time does go on. They continue to release new music. The band really have been continuing to build on their hard rock sound, so if you are a fan of bands like Breaking Benjamin, Shinedown, Trapped, or even Digital Summit, or bands around that genre, then this definitely will probably be an album for you. So will this latest album be worth reflecting on, or will it simply be like standing on broken glass? Let's take a look at it track by track. Opening the album we do have The Worst Kind, and straight away we get this use of the telephone before I plunge straight into their hard rock sound. And I really like this. It's been done on previous tracks that I have heard, such as Funeral for a Friend's Streetcar, and it really just kind of holds to that one-sided conversation because it's him, kind of Eric Boatwright, going down the phone to somebody and really just laying into them that they are the worst kind, that he's unveiled the truth, and we see that within the lyrics as well. It's really very much about unveiling the true identity behind somebody's mask, but without warning I saw the other side. So you never know when you may learn the true identity of somebody. It could be through a friend, through just a piece of information that does come your way, and they can really explore that through this track. And the idea of not being able to get the time back, you stole this thing from me, you stole me this time that I'm never going to get back. And I love some of the other lyrics as well. Can barely hide those fangs, almost like a serpent inflicting venom onto somebody, really just kind of again showing your true self and showing this false facade that somebody's been putting on. It's kind of melting away to reveal their true self, and how venomous and how poisonous that can be to somebody. So I love the focus on really kind of emphasizing that this person is the worst kind. They're a snake, they're a serpent, they've gone behind your back, they'll lie to you, things like that. And they make great use of some of these metaphors to really amplify that message throughout the course of the track, and really just do it very well through this aggressive hard rock sound that really comes through. Then for track 2 we do head into Filters featuring Elias Soriano of Nonpoint on this. It is the one collaboration that does feature on the album, and he is made great use of throughout this track. We get this really soft piano open before we're thrusted into the twisting guitars and returning to that hard rock sound. And this is a song that really focuses on the idea of masks again, the idea of filters, people pretending to be happy when they're not. I can't tell the truth from the lies behind a brilliant disguise. I'm hiding all of my demons inside. So really kind of switching the focus from somebody else wearing the mask to maybe yourself. Maybe you kind of smile on loads of pictures. You see people often do that, or couples that will be smiling in photos, yet behind the mask, behind the image, they're really having a terrible time where they're at each other's throats and things like that. So I really love the focus on the idea of filters. It's something very modern that's really brought in and really enveloped very well into this song. Hiding behind the mask, unsure of your real self, just not really kind of sure of who you actually are. And they do this in a very interesting musical way because they switch between these rock heavy and stripped stylings on this track, bouncing between the two before we get to the end of the track where Elias really comes in and he almost acts like the breaking point as he gradually builds up this rage, this point of explosion. And I really love the way that they've really brought him in to almost provide that other perspective of that boiling point finally being reached, because it really adds a strong ending towards the later stages of the song. Then for track 3 we do have You're the Reason, which really seems to focus on a failed relationship, but it's a heavy focus on reflection. Given the album's title, that is certainly no surprise, but it certainly has a very powerful chorus with these slow steady drums that gradually add power into the track, and it almost feels like it talks about killing parts of yourself off by trying to force yourself into this relationship and try and make it work, because my demons have demons too. So really showing the layers of regret and pain that somebody may have from trying to make this relationship work, and ultimately this person is the the reason that you have these demons. So the fact they've been such a negative influence on you, and kind of putting a different spin on what we did see on the worst kind. So whilst they're going to touch on multiple times the idea of relationships and how people can be very bad for you, I like the fact they're changing it up a little bit from track to track and not just kind of hammering that same message home. They're really doing it in different ways and putting different reflections onto different aspects of oneself and how you can be impacted by some of the negative things in your life. Then for track 4, we do have the first song that wasn't released as a single from this album, and this is called The Fall, and it really focuses on the idea of having a partner who will help you through your worst times. So more of a self-reflection on this track. The idea of being plunged into darkness, pleading, asking why, can't I fill the void inside, is there something to hold on to? So the idea that somebody that really cares for you and really loves you will be kind of that life raft or that life jacket that keeps you afloat in times of darkness. Most people will go through struggles in life, whether it's the loss of a family member or difficulties that you may face. You always want that support network, that's someone you can hold on to that will be there when you do fall. And I really love the use of the layered scream vocals in this track, just adding something else. It really just adds to the backing sounds that are also included to add a very heavy level of ambience, which really just encapsulate this track as a whole and really make it much more beautiful sounding and really fitting with that slightly more positive aspect of having somebody positive rather than the negativity we've seen over those first 3 tracks. Then in at track 5 we do have Over, with its winding guitar opener and its electric drums that just add this laid back sound with a whistling in the back of the track as well. So they make great use on this album of lots of different sounds that they layer in just to really build some of the ambience, the atmosphere around some of these hard rock sounds that are included. And this track really seems to focus on the disparity between a couple, maybe 2 people that are together but live very different lives or have very different beliefs. Staring at your phone, living in your own world, don't you know I'm here? And I'm sure many people in a technological age have gone through that with their partner. Maybe they've got somebody who's just obsessed with their phone. It's almost like they're being ignored because they're so busy, enveloped in their own world, and having that disparity where one person's maybe obsessed with something and the other person has no love for it can sometimes cause these rifts to occur. And whilst each relationship should have different likes and interests, sometimes they can be too much and they can create this giant rift. So I love the focus they're putting on that, and we see a lot of heaviness really brought into this track through the vocals and the guitar. The idea of these little things building up and pushing you over the edge again to that breaking point, reflecting and learning on this relationship and looking at the times where you maybe have a partner, what didn't work, what did work, and being able to move on from that. So really again focusing on this idea of reflection and done holding on to a world I don't belong to. So the fact that you're not a part of this other person's world, they just kind of see you as a bit on the side or something like that. So more use of great lyrics that really incorporate this idea of kind of just this failed relationship or reflecting on things that have gone wrong that you can then learn from. Then we hit the midpoint in the album with Something to Believe in, with a much more driving groove on the guitar. I've been reliving a moment, hands tied behind my back, these feet, they won't react, these walls keep closing in. So really spinning this wheel again and really focusing on the idea of that spark or that something that you can hold on to. So very similar to The Fall in the way that really focuses on having something that really keeps you going, that spark of hope, and we see that in the lyrics as well. Flicked a match looking for the spark. So really looking for the spark that ignites the fire, that gives you that ambition and that passion to go on and do things. So well, we do see this album really reflecting on different ideas, kind of putting a primary focus on things such as relationships, but being able to look inward and really just see some of the darkness and the struggles that people go through, and how sometimes you need that little moment that really gets you going on the right path. And we really focus on that with this track. They have some great metaphor usage and some of the lyrics that are included within. There's actually too many to kind of cover, or I'd be here for about 10 minutes, but real great use of these continued ideas of reflecting on the past and learning and pushing yourself forward in the future. Then for track 7 we do have Nothing Left, which is funny because there's actually another 4 tracks after this, so there clearly is something left after this. But we come in with these real plunging guitars, and there's some more great metaphor usage in this, almost referring to a partner as something like a blood-sucking leech or a parasite. You're crawling under my skin to try to stay attached. The idea of wanting to break free of somebody, but they just keep on coming back, and they make more use of these great metaphors such as, I don't believe in ghosts, but you're haunting me. These things that you can't escape from, or you're very very difficult to escape from. The fact that this person just keeps coming back and back and back, no matter how much you try to break away from them, they're sucking on your skin, they're draining the life from you, they're haunting you. They effectively, while you're trying to kind of break that point where you kind of put them in your past, you're not able to because they're constantly there in the present, affecting you in different ways. So again, there's so much clever lyricism really brought into this track, and we continue to see on the musical side this really driving rock sound that really comes through, and they keep changing it up from track to track by having these different backing elements that they do include to really keep it fresh and avoid that repetitiveness that can sometimes come through from hard rock by replaying those constant kind of guitar tones or some of those drum tones that you do see on quite a lot of albums. Then in at track 8 we do have Antilight with a much slower plod, really bringing the tempo down for this part of the album, and it's a song that's very cleverly worded because it does focus very heavily on the idea of darkness or someone really sucking the light out of your life. So rather than just focusing on that, I love the way they almost turn this person into a black hole in the way that they really drain the light from you. They drain everything that's good, they just suck it in and remove it and leave you feeling very empty. Done wrecking myself, you put me through hell. So the fact that they can drain the light and leave you feeling so hollow, so empty. And we have a nice sway in this track as well with some slightly softer vocals and the great use of acoustic guitar into a guitar solo as well. So again, showing different things on this album to really keep it fresh, avoid that repetitiveness that can sometimes come through. And I think that's also aided by Eric Boatwright's vocals. He has this ability to have this gruffer rock sound, but also really change up into something much softer and much lighter at the drop of a hat. And it really does aid the band in kind of switching up these styles. We do see it on a few of the tracks on this album, the switch between the much heavier sounds and softer tones to again kind of show this push and pull of this reflectiveness of really going through those moments of aggression but also those moments of softer reflection. In at track 9 we do have Every River, and we return to a more powerful tone with heavier vocals at times. The idea of almost floating away from somebody, trying to create the distance. And one thing I love about this is they make use of the things such as the river, and one of the lyrics, I'm breaking down, it also kind of almost shows this idea of erosion, this water constantly running, gradually eroding away at you. So more references and metaphor being used to really show the idea of kind of how if you're with the wrong person or you're doing something negative in your life, it will gradually eat away at you. And it doesn't kind of put a perspective or specifically on just one person. It could be things such as substance misuse. It may start off and it's not affecting you too heavily, but over time it will erode you away. It will eat away at your life force effectively, all this negativity in your life. So I really love the focus on every river flowing to the sea and how this erosion can come in as well. There's lots of ideas you can really tie into this track that really just kind of show again another's perspective to the band. Then at track 10 we do have No One Wins, and this is a track that much more focuses on that idea of self-reflection. I think a look in the mirror is what I fear most, reflecting all of the sickness undiagnosed. So great use of mirrors. It's something that's typically used to kind of highlight the idea of reflecting or looking back on oneself. I play pretend with my halo, so the idea of I'm trying to come across as an angel but I'm effectively a sinner. So referencing back to those previous albums as well in the way that they do that, which is I think is really smart in the way that they did have Saints and Sinners. So a bit of a nod back to 2019 with the references that they do include in this track. I'm really just talking about the idea of being undiagnosed. You're not too sure what's wrong with you. You can't always tell what you need to fix to kind of revert yourself back to a more positive state. And it also really focuses on the idea of being contagious to everybody because you've got this sickness that you spread. So it's kind of just putting less focus on everyone else around you being the problem and kind of more focus on maybe yourself. And when you're effectively in a negative state, no one wins because you take that aggression out on multiple people. So I really love this focus, not only just with this album on reflecting on other people, but also that self-reflection that really comes through, especially on tracks like this. Then rounding out the album we do have Resurrection. I love some of the elements that are on this. It really is a great closer. Starts opening with these clinking chains, almost like a prisoner, very Wild West feel, dead man walking. You can imagine the desert, the beating sun, almost like the life has completely gone out of you. You've done too many negative things and you need that resurrection to come back as a better person or certainly in a better light. And we get more use of great metaphors like a sun in a black sky, these opposites, so very similar to like Saints and Sinners, things like that. They really do embrace that very heavily on this album as well. well. And also the idea of bracing the storm and being washed away. We see lyrics such as "I found myself at the bottom," the idea of being sinking, almost like there's a stone attached to your ankle, that you're going to be buried effectively at sea and just washed away, things like that. So lots of ideas really being packed into this track to show that idea of your sins have got that heavy that you now have to pay the ultimate price and hope that you can be resurrected in a more positive light or in a more positive way. And sometimes you've got to reach rock bottom to then kind of move forward. You kind of got to hit that point of no return effectively, where you're able to really bounce back. And for some people they're not able to, but certainly some people are, and a lot of that does come through reflection. So again, really tying back to the title of the album and really just continuing to show what they wanted to encompass in terms of an idea with this album as a whole. Overall, this album certainly does give plenty to reflect on. I love the way that it really explores the idea of reflecting on people in your life, how they may impact you, but also reflecting on oneself, and we're looking at your own mental state or how you come across to others through the variety of different tracks we do see found within. One thing that does get maybe a little bit repetitive at times is kind of the messaging when they're focusing on other people and the kind of relationships you may find yourself in. There's a couple of points in the album where it kind of feels like they're kind of retreading old ground, but not too heavily, because again, they mix it up with the different musical elements they do include in their tracks, and some great use of metaphor. It's really a pleasure to pull this album apart and look at it lyrically, because there's so much great usage of those metaphors to really bring across these ideas in such a clear and concise way, while certainly keeping it very interesting. And for those reasons, I'm going to give this album a very deserved 8 out of 10. I think it's a brilliant showing from the band, really building on Saints and Sinners from 2019 and continuing to step up as they do go. And I think one thing that really helps them is certainly Eric Boatwright on the vocals. He really has this beautiful ability to really switch between these harsher and softer vocals, this very gruff rock sound, into something almost a bit more poppy at times. It can really kind of blend into those ideas and really just kind of show that. And it really allows the band to explore different ideas and different sounds and really incorporate so much into the album. Also having the backing scream vocals as well really just helps to really show those peaks of aggression. So definitely an album worth check out. Like I said before, if you're a fan of things like Breaking Benjamin, Shinedown, the likes of Trapped, Digital Summer, any of those bands, I would highly recommend checking out this album. It's definitely worth listening. I've had it on a few times already, and some of the songs certainly really do get ingrained in your head. So that's all we'll be reflecting on with this album, but I would love to know your thoughts about this album in the comments section below. Give it a listen through and let me know what you like or dislike about it, or let me know what your favourite track is and why. And if you have heard it, then do exactly the same. I really would love to know your thoughts. Also, if you'd like to see more content like this, then please do feel free to subscribe, and I will see you in the next album analysis.